black room boy. You're a black room boy. You're a black room boy.
Welcome viewers to round 9 of the Star Mazda Australian Championship. We are here tonight at Watkins Glen International. We are racing on the International International Boot version of the track, which includes the bus stop chicane on the back straight. With me as usual in the booth tonight is Andrew Gaines. Andrew, how are you this evening?
Mate, really good, really good. Excited to be here. Another great track tonight. We've got a run of great tracks. We had Interlagos, Brazil, I think it was last week. We've got Watkins Glen, which is a crowd favourite, also a driver's favourite tonight. And of course, Phillip Island next week. So a hat trick of great tracks, which always produces great racing.
Yeah, although these cars are pretty good on the twisty, tight stuff, but these long, drafty tracks certainly create some pretty good racing with the draft coming into effect.
Yeah, that's right. And been quite a long track, about a minute 47, minute 48 per lap on this track. It's about 5.47 kilometres long with 12 turns. It's long flowing. Draft will play a big part in this race, so it's going to be pretty exciting. And obviously the championship is heating up. Scott Goodman's still in the top, but he's only hanging on to that by just a thread at the moment.
That's true. Just quickly go through the track here. We've got 5 kilometres long, 19 laps tonight. Sky's clear, 13 kilometre hour wind speed. They'll have a bit of headwind down the back straight. humidity at 47%, track temps 38, so it's pretty toasty on track with an air temp of 23. We'll quickly go through the grid if we can. We've got Gary Hamilton on pole, Craig Edwards second, Riley Preston third, Michael McCabe fourth, Troy Burgess in fifth. Sorry guys. Quick, Josh Anderson, Andrew Kiss, Ashley Thomas, Scott Newton, Simon Fiegel, David Pegler, Hayden Dodman, Michael Hammond, Mitchell McLeod, Paul Tajavara, Scott Goodman, Ben Daly Jr., Nina Natal, Philip Stoneman, Martin Savassi. And we're getting the green lights to go now. And we're off. Gary Hamilton on pole. He looks like he's holding on to that position moving into turn one. A few cars have run wide there. There's plenty of space to run off, so hopefully everyone's gotten through there fairly cleanly by the sounds of it.
First lap into the bus stop is going to be really quite interesting. Hopefully everybody pulls up at the right time.
You can see that draft taking effect there with, I'm not sure who that was behind Gary. Craig Edwards yet really caught up to tow, but looks like he's made a mess of the bus stop there. So we've got, looks like Riley Preston and is having a go at Craig Edwards now down the inside.
Yeah, with all that fighting going on behind, looks like Gary's just pulling up that little bit of gap, but we'll see if he can hold on to that. We know Gary's a fast driver and a consistent driver, so he may be able to hang on to that if he stays out of the 1 or 2 second draft.
Well, he did have an advantage of a full tenth of a second over second place in qualifying, which in these cars isn't usually seen very often. We don't usually see large gaps between positions on the grid. They're usually pretty close, so if he can break that draft on these first beginning stages of the laps, he might be able to run away here while the guys behind battle each other.
Yeah, it looks like he's doing that as we speak. He's got a fair bit of a lead, and if we've got the 2 cars behind him, Craig and Riley battling, well, they're going to be losing time to Gary. So I think we might see him pull away a little bit further.
He is. I'll also give a shout out to Gary. He's running a new livery for tonight to promote Will Power's book, The Sheer Force of Will Power. So yeah, get yourself out there and buy. I'm not sure when the book's released, but his livery tonight is in sort of a promotion for that. So yeah, get out there and buy it when the copy's available.
I have noticed we're missing Marcelo out of this split tonight, Trent. I don't know if he's in the second split. I wouldn't expect him to be. That's a big upset for the championship. He actually crawled into second place from last week with a win in split 1. So it's going to be a drop round for him, and I think that's really going to impact his championship hopes.
Yeah, he's already had a drop round, I think, and some also results that haven't been so favourable. So it's not looking good for Marcelo retaining that championship and going back to back for this season. So it looks like we might open it up for a new winner this season, which is always good to see. It gets a bit stale seeing the same person win over and over again. So it's good to see a bit of variety at the top.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got to say, Gary Hamilton, it was I guess a little way out from the championship, I would have thought. I think it was at 71 points from the lead, but he's put in some strong performances, and we all know it's consistency that's going to get this championship with the overhaul of the point system. So Gary's looking pretty good at this point, but Riley Preston, he's up there as well, and he's always a strong finisher, so he's another title contender.
That's definitely true. Yeah, Gary, I think he actually missed a few races, so it's good to see him after drop rounds. We might see him up there doing pretty good in the points once the drop rounds are taken into account. We're in round 9 tonight, so we'll try and when we get the points updated, we'll get the points updated after drop rounds, so we'll get a bit of a clearer idea where everyone's really actually sitting.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And as you know, we did the the broadcast on Split 2 last week, so I just had a little bit of a run through Split 1. I don't know if you went back and had a look at the replay. It was pretty an interesting race in the Split 1. Racing was pretty clean, but there was a few incidents which was a bit of a surprise, and obviously the championship leader, Scott Goodman, probably didn't have the race he really wanted to have. He came home in position 16 after a early contact, I think it was on turn 1 lap 5 with Damien Carr. They actually came together, had a bit of a spin. It really put a damper on his title hopes. He's still in the lead, but only by 7 points.
Yeah, it's definitely a single result can certainly have a big impact on the points with the new point system. Just looking at Riley Preston now, he's starting to make a little bit of ground on Gary Hamilton. That gap was at 1.5 seconds. It's now down to looks like 7/10 of a second, so he's definitely made up. He'll be in the draft now. He'll certainly be in draft position, so he can take advantage and pull right up to the back of Gary. But doesn't look like Craig Edwards has been able to go with Riley Preston here, and he's starting to gap him a little bit too. Also give a bit of a shout out to Michael McCabe. Viewers might remember him. He won Split 2 last week, which we broadcast, and yeah, obviously Split 2, sometimes people associate that with possibly slower drivers, but as you can see here, Michael, he qualified 4th and he's currently in 4th position in tonight's race, so he's certainly got lack of speed, but a simple qualifying mistake can cost you and can put you right down the field.
Yeah, that's right, Trent. And as we saw in Split 2, Michael McCabe taking it out quite easily. He made it look really quite an easy race for him. I think it was about 22 seconds that he won that race from. He's back in this one. Obviously, he belongs in the top split. Like you said, he probably just made a simple mistake. He did say he had a bad qualifying. I put him in Split 2. Lost a fair few points on that, but he's up the front of the field where he belongs in Split 1.
Yeah, he's certainly shown some pretty good speed. He's a fairly newcomer to the series. I think it was this season, maybe last season that he's run. So it's good to see that the fresh blood is certainly still in there and got some speed. And Craig Edwards is another one of those who's currently in 3rd place. He's another driver that has been consistently pretty much top 3, top 5 every race he's been contesting so far this season.
So the championship leader, Scott Goodman, currently in position 13, which is still a good result. He hasn't won a race this season. It's all been about consistency. I think he's had about 3 top 10s. I don't know if this is going to be enough to keep him in the lead. I don't think it will be in the championship, but it's definitely going to keep him up there in probably the top 5.
That's right, and as we've seen, consistency is definitely key here. And yeah, currently sitting 14th position is still a good solid points haul for being in Split 1. So yeah, he might be able to improve a few positions yet. For his sake, hopefully he can do that and he can make up some more points.
A couple of strange incidents in Split 1 last week, which probably the viewers didn't see as we were in Split 2. And Michael Hammond pitted on lap 8 and from position 14 and didn't come back out. So I don't know what the problem was. It didn't really show on the replay. It would be really good to find out what happened there. Also, Dylan Shepherd, he was in position 3. He pitted on lap 14 and basically just disappeared. So there was a couple of big names. We've had no idea what actually happened in that split.
It doesn't take much. The drivers were complaining of a slippery track last round, so don't know if that had anything to do with it.
Actually, we had a couple of drivers talk briefly on the setup of the car or the handling of the car for this round. A few drivers have said that they found it quite stiff, maybe a little bit bouncy, a little bit different. Has there been any changes in the setup for this race track?
No, setup is the same setup we've been running all season, with the exception of Indy Oval, which ran a specific oval setup there. It's been the same set. Track temperature, however, traditionally a lot of the SMAC races we've been running have been quite cool track temperatures, and which yields a fair bit of grip, especially with slick and downforce cars. But today, as we saw earlier, the track temperature is 38 degrees, which really promotes quite a slippery track surface, especially with the sun beating down directly on the track with no clouds. There's clear conditions tonight, so that's probably what the drivers are feeling more than the setup itself, as well as this track being probably fairly old, you could say. track surface, it's actually quite bumpy, and that could be upsetting the guys as well.
Yeah, it's definitely a crowd favourite, this track. It doesn't matter what you're racing on this, V8s, open wheelers, GT3s. It's a driver's favourite track. It's a viewer's favourite track. It's a great track for great racing, and like I said before, all different cars, even the Star Mazda, with just the drafting makes the passing and the racing quite exciting. We got a good bunch, a bit of a train happening around position, I think it's 11 to about 9. It's quite a good little battle going on there. David Pegler from GT Racing in position 12, doing really quite well. He's really quite consistent when he finishes races, but he's had a bit of a bad luck this season.
Yeah, he's had a few run-ins, and there was one round in particular, I think pretty much all the GT cars didn't really fare too well in the running of things, so good to see he's out there running 12th position, which is again good solid points as we touched on earlier. I was just looking before at a battle right near the back actually with looks like Nino Natal, Paul Tajavara, Andy O'Brien, David Jellings in there as well. Four-way battle. These guys have actually all pitted, so this is all for position, and hopefully don't fight too much because it'll just slow them down. It'll be interesting to see how the early pit stops play out over the ones that pit a little bit later in the race.
And it's good to see these guys back in split one. Paul Tajvara and Nino, they've been pretty consistent through the whole season, and we're used to seeing them in split one. A couple of seasons ago, they were split 2 drivers, so it's really good to see them back in split one.
That's definitely true, and just sort of give a little bit of information to the viewers out there who might be tuning in for the first time. When we're talking about splits, what we're talking about there is each track is limited to the amount of cars that can actually have a pit bay, basically. In the instance of Watkins Glen International Boot, it's 42 pit stalls is all that we can fit on track, and in the pre-qualifying servers, we actually had 50 cars, 50 drivers out there on track between the two servers setting times, which means that we couldn't fit all the drivers into a single split. So we've done it 50 drivers, we put that halfway down the middle, so 25 cars in each split. So what we're watching tonight is the top 25 times, and at the same time this race is happening, there's actually another 25 cars racing in what we call split 2, which are the cars that qualified 26th to 50th.
Great battle with the up front with Gary, Riley, and Craig. The 3 of them seem to have broken away a little bit. I can see a message there from Joshua Anderson, sort of contacting Michael, saying let's not lose too much time up to the top 3. I really don't know how he's driving and typing at the same time, but that's pretty impressive. But he's got a good point. If they're battling, they're going to lose touch with those top 3, which I think they are at the moment. But we've seen those top 2 catch Gary before, so we might see that happen again.
That's a good point you make about Josh Anderson. He's actually, in the past, I've seen him myself type messages while he's driving. I don't know how he does it. He must have a third hand or something. But yeah, it's a pretty good talent to be able to drive and type at the same time.
So I was talking about this track before, being such a great track. It was actually home of the US Formula One Grand Prix for about 20 years, from 1961 to 1980. You could just imagine what the Formula One races would be like here. Obviously, probably a bit too dangerous with the barriers. This track has had 11 fatalities in its history, so it's a pretty dangerous track. But I'd definitely like to see Formula One return here. It'd be fantastic.
I think it'd be a great track for Formula One. We've just seen a change for the lead, by the way. Riley Preston has made his way past Gary Hamilton, so finally a new leader. Gary's led every lap of the race so far till now, but these top 3 are still in a group by themselves with the next group of 2 cars, about four seconds or so down the road.
Yeah, and we saw Gary earlier start to break away from Riley, and Riley caught him. So it'll be interesting to see if Riley's just got that little bit more pace, that little bit more consistency, and see if he pulls away from Gary. But Gary's got the toe at the moment, but we know Riley's fast.
Just going back to the back here, there was a 3-way cars trying to get into the bus stop there, and all drivers managed to get through. So some pretty good racing back here. It looks like we had Scott Goodman made a pit stop, and he's come out in the middle of this pack, which we saw a couple of laps ago. We saw a car rejoin in the back of this pack. So certainly some good battles happening all over.
Yeah, we can't forget about Scott Newton as well. He's in position 8. We know Scott Newton's a very quick driver, and he hasn't been able to make all the races. And I think when we talked to him a couple of weeks ago, he was saying, yeah, I'd really like to make the top 30. Last week, he was in the top 20. So I think, maybe he's gunning for the top 15 now. I'm not really too sure. But when he does turn up and he does have a good race, he puts in, really good results. He's position 8 at the moment and looking pretty comfortable.
And while you were just talking to Andrew, just took the viewers, had a look at Mitchell McLeod. He made a mistake coming back out of the boot section of the track, coming back into the main part, and he's got himself a bit loose and nosed into a barrier. And it looks like he's might have retired from the race. And Gary has now taken the lead back from Riley Preston, so Gary's back in the lead. But it's still nothing really between, especially the front two, but Craig Edwards hanging around there in third, just waiting for these guys to make a mistake and possibly pounce.
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be like this all the way to the end with these three. They've got enough gap from position 4, 5, and 6, and the rest of the field. I think they're just going to run their own race, but I think we'll see some really good moves, some really dicing coming in about 3 laps to go from the end, I'd say.
Yeah, I think these three probably are just working together. They're not hustling. They're not over fighting. If the pass is on, then they'll probably take it because if it's easy pickings. But I don't think they'll battle too hard at this stage of the race. Once the pit stops happen, that could potentially be when we see these guys start to really battle it out. I'm not sure what the fuel mileage is. Do you know how many laps they'll get from the starting fuel, Andrew?
No, I don't. To be fair, it's not something that I did. A couple of laps here in practice on Monday night. Was having a ball. I was actually in the Oculus Rift, but I couldn't really see anything other than the track in the Oculus Rift, so I had no idea what was going on.
No, we just saw Riley try to make a move on Gary into the chicane there, but couldn't quite get it done. So he's pulled back in behind, but he's keeping Gary honest here at the front. He's right underneath him. Might actually go for an onboard lap once they come around the start-finish line. Might do an onboard lap with Riley Preston and see what it's like around here. Actually, we'll do it with Craig Edwards. His view of the battle happening in front of him once we come around to the stripe the next time by. Looks like Riley. Oh no, he's got back up there again. He tried to make a move on Gary Hamilton in the bottom section of the track and lost a bit of time. And Craig tried to go him, but looks like he's back on track now. As we'll go on board now, so turn up your volume and listen to the sound of these cars for a lap around Watkins Glen. As he comes into the pits, great. Thanks for that, Craig. Oh, we'll stay on board for a pit stop then.
He clearly didn't read the script.
So it's interesting that these guys pitted together, but Riley's stayed out.
Yeah, they'll be interesting to see where these guys come out. If there's any traffic that they have to fight to get past, it could really slow them up. But Riley's still got a pit, so it could be the same for him. Scott Goodman's leading the championship at the moment, and interestingly enough, he's from KRF Motorsports. They're actually leading the team championship as well.
We'll stay on a lap with Craig from here, shall we? Enjoy. now you've seen, oh, looks like Riley's made his stop too and come out right behind Craig while we're on board there. Very interesting. He might have seen Craig run wide there. That doesn't give these guys an off track, which in iRacing is their penalty system. Well, that was close. Riley's gone off there. He's had to shortcut the track. Massive bump in the road. He's lucky to hold on to that. I might go back and have a replay of that one. I see Riley's right in the slipstream there, and he's tried to nose up the inside. We're almost 3 wide coming into this chicane. Looks like they touched early on in that corner. Looks like Riley's very lucky to hold on to that one.
Race leaders just pitted in, Troy Burgess. Troy and Riley actually had a bit of a coming together last week in Brazil. So they'll probably want to stay away from each other today.
So it looks like Riley's... Not sure what's happened to Craig. Looks like Craig's lost even more places. I think he's got a damaged car. Just quickly do a replay and see what's happening. Alright, finally found it. So here we see what we just saw before, which was Riley coming up the inside to make that pass. So I'm not sure if that contact there damaged his car or not. It looks very loose. Or maybe he redressed the position or damaged car. Yeah, it looks like he's Craig must have damaged his car there. Do you know if he's coming to the pits again, Andrew?
Oh, I didn't see him, no. I've been watching Gary pull up a bit of a lead at the front. It's worked out really well for him, but no, I didn't see anybody else coming to the pits, or Craig for that matter.
Yeah, looks like Craig did make another pit stop. His drivers get one fast repair. For those who are new to iRacing and watching, fast repair means that if a car's damaged, they effectively get one free replacement car. So they can pretty much come in, all damage is repaired instantly, and they're on their way. So looks like Craig has probably used up his allocation there after that altercation with Riley.
Great battle for 15th, 14th and 13th with David Jellings, Andrew Kiss and Nino Natali. Nose to tail for just about the whole lap. So it's a really good battle for those three going into this next lap. They're just about to come down the start-finish straight. Should be interesting going into turn 1.
Yeah, and this, remember, this is the battle we were actually looking at earlier. These were the first guys to pit, and they were battling for which basically was last position at the time. So these guys are now up 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th. So that early pit stop has done well for them, and yeah, they're up there now fighting for a top 10 position.
Too wide through the S's, going up towards the bus stop. This will be really interesting.
So there's just nowhere for David to go here to try and get past either of these guys. Yeah, it's all settled down before they get into the chicane.
It's a little bit of fighting's letting Ben Darley catch that group. I think we're going to be in for a bit of a 4-way battle soon.
Looks like Nino's managed to get that move done on Andrew, I think that is. Oh, these camera angles are very good. They're all really far away. So our fastest lap at the moment is a 1:47.316 set by Riley Preston. He's currently 3.9 seconds behind Gary Hamilton in first place, so that little altercation certainly cost him a bit of time, and with only 5 laps to go, it's probably going to be pretty hard asked to make up 4 seconds in 5 laps around here with how close these guys are in lap times.
Interesting enough, Nino Natali and David Jellings, they're 11th and 12th in the championship, so they're having their own little battle. And I think they've had some battles throughout a couple of the races. Andrew Kiss is in 8th place in the championship, so he's within reach of those two as well. So I think we're going to see a good battle between, I guess, positions 8 to 13 for the rest of the season.
As we go back to this battle with David Jellings, Nino Tal, Ben Daly Jr., Andrew Kiss. So it's a 4-way battle. These guys just managed to get through the chicane there. And Scott Goodman, our championship leader, he's currently back in 17th position, has just made a move on Philip Stoneman to move up into 17th. So he's not having the greatest race of his life, but he's in the top split. He's still running, so he's going to score points, which is important.
Yeah, that'll still keep him in touch with the leaders, I think. But after this race, I mean, I'm no mathematician, but my guess is Riley Preston's probably going to move into the championship lead, and not too far behind him. We're going to see, well, it's anybody's guess really, but Gary Hamilton's got to be, I guess, up there for the second place.
And once we factor in those drop rounds as we spoke about earlier, I think that's really going to mix things up as to where everyone's going to be sitting once we remove those either non-scoring point rounds or the bad scoring point rounds for all these drivers.
Yeah, exactly right. That's going to make it really interesting. Just watching Paul Tarsabara at the moment, he's in a solid 10th position and he's 4th in the championship standing. So that's going to really help him towards the end of this series.
It certainly will. Paul's one of those drivers who's fairly consistently here every week, doing a really good job. Currently sitting 9th place, so he's in for a good points haul. And David Pegler in front of him. We spoke about earlier in 12th place. He's also going to score some good points. Too wide in here doesn't work. Oh, who's that coming through? Oh, that was lucky. Looks like Andrew Kiss, David Jellings, and Ben Daly Jr. there had some pretty close moment coming through that chicane. These cars can run too wide in some corners, but I don't think that chicane is actually one of them. That's actually allowed Nino Tal now to make a bit of a break on these three. And it just shows how much battling actually does affect the amount of time you can lose.
Yeah, that's 100% correct. I'm looking at Gary Hamilton at the moment, making it look easy in the Willpower Star Mazda. He's sitting comfortably up front. I guess he just needs to be consistent and just bring it home, make no mistakes, but he has got a little bit of a gap, so he doesn't have to push as hard as he probably normally would.
Yeah, that's true. The gaps have stayed fairly consistent. If anything, has actually grown by a tenth or two. Back to Riley Preston. Riley's probably also a little bit in just preservation mode now. He knows he's not going to catch Gary, so he's sort of probably just, instead of driving that 100%, he's probably now driving at 95% just to make sure he gets the car home, and he'll probably just monitor that gap back to Troy Burgess, who's currently sitting in 3rd place. So that's probably where their mindset is at the moment, whereas Troy's he's still pushing 100%. He can see Riley now. He's probably just starting to get a little bit of draft effect, being 1.4 seconds behind. So that's probably something he'll be looking at. We've got Hayden Dodman in 4th place. Has made the move on Scott Newton, who's currently in for a top 5. So good result there for Scott Newton.
We've got a few cars in the pits at the moment, Trent. Mitchell McLeod seems to be sitting there and going nowhere. There's a couple of bent cars as well, so I think we may have had some contact, either with a wall or a couple of cars.
Yeah, we did see Mitch McLeod a little bit earlier clout the wall with the nose, and he escaped back to the pits. Car was quite heavily damaged, and he's obviously decided not to continue on. I've just seen Philip Stoneman just appear in the pit lane. Let's quickly see if I can't find what's happening. I'll just go back to live pictures. Yeah, we'll just go back to live pictures. Not sure what's happened to him there. So we got 2 laps remaining. Troy Burgess has now got that gap to Riley Preston down to around about just under a second now. So 2 laps remaining. He could be still a little bit too far behind, but if he can get the draft absolutely perfect in the last lap and a half that's left, he might be able to challenge Riley for that second place.
Quite surprising tonight. There's been a couple of the top drivers not in the series, and maybe they've got another series on. Maybe they're doing some qualifying for another series. I'm not too sure, but it's really mixed it up tonight. I thought this would have been a track that everybody wanted to come to because it's always got some great racing. But for the championship anyway, it's going to open the doors for a lot of drivers that probably wouldn't have been near the top.
Yeah, that's true. I believe the V8 Supercar Online Premier Series is running this weekend, the Phillip Island 500 Enduro round, with SMAC running support races on the Saturday and Sunday. Also the Rough C-Spec Cup as well. They'll be running support races for the V8 guys this weekend. And yeah, so it should be on for some good racing around Phillip Island in these cars as we're used to seeing.
And that series for the support races, Trent, that's open set, is that correct?
It's actually fixed set. It's based on the SMAC 4 set, so it is fixed set, so anyone can basically rock up and race and know that they're on the same playing field as everyone else, effectively.
And we're at Phillip Island next week for this series. Phillip Island's always been a great track. It's always had big turnouts. And the good thing about that is it's got a big grid capability as well, so we might see one split.
That's true. We're always seeing pretty good fields there, and at Phillip Island some good racing. So we can almost look at the support races this weekend as a precursor, I guess, to what we can expect at Phillip Island next week. As we're looking at Gary Hamilton now, completing his last lap, just coming into the last few turns. Just coming out of the boot section now onto what is the NASCAR Cup track. And after we get around here, we've got 2 corners to go. 4.3 seconds ahead of Riley Preston, so very, very comfortable win for Gary Hamilton. He certainly had the pace here tonight to be out front, and he's been out there the whole time almost. So congratulations to Gary Hamilton in the Willpower car for winning tonight.
Very surprising that from memory, Gary's only had 2 wins this season. I think he's had a couple of unlucky breaks, but the guy is fast. He's super fast. Would have expected probably more wins from him, but I would say the next couple of races we might see him at the podium at the top step again.
He's definitely got speed, and he's almost always got speed. Does Gary? He's usually at the top there, so it's good to see him grab another win.
A little bit of shenanigans going in turn 1.
quickly have a look, see what was going on down there in turn 1. Got Scott Newton. There's there's a few drivers out there. Looks like we've blown an engine. We're playing demo derbies at the end of the race here.
Getting a little bit happy, I think they were.
Good on them. It's good to see drivers out there celebrating good results when they achieve them. Certainly a fair bit going on there tonight. That's for sure. Alright, we'll go through our results for tonight. As we said before, Gary Hamilton takes that win, 4.2 seconds ahead of Riley Preston. Hayden Dodman managed to get past Troy Burgess at the end there for 3rd position, so I'm not sure what happened to Troy. We might try and find a replay of that very soon. Scott Newton gets the top 5. Ashley Thomas in 6th, good to see him up there. David Pegler in 7th, well done David. Toltar Javara in 8th, Nina Natal in 9th, and Andrew Kiss in 10th place. Ben Daly Jr. In 11th, Simon Fiegel, Simon Gelly. Craig Edwards managed to get himself back up to 14th place after that incident we saw earlier with Riley Preston. Martin Silvassi in 15th, David Jelling 16th. He was a little bit further up, so David must have had a bit of an incident there towards the end of that race as well. Kent Walker in 17th, Scott Goodman 18th, Andy O'Brien 19th, and Michael McCabe must have had an unfortunate accident too, back there in 20th place. Philip Stoneman 21st, Joshua Anderson must have retired, Mitchell McLeod in 23rd, and Michael Hammond rounding 24th. And we have our race winner down there in the interview room. We'll bring up Gary Hamilton and have a bit of a chat. G'day Gary, welcome to the Slipstream commentary box. Congratulations on the win there, mate. The new livery must have worked, getting you up there on the top step of the podium.
Yeah, g'day Trent, Andy, thank you very much. Yeah, I think that did the trick, yeah. A bit of, might have added a bit of talent onto the car.
You pretty much, I won't say dominated the race, but you certainly were pretty much led that race from start to finish almost. Were you fairly comfortable in the car in this track?
Yeah, like the setup was pretty nice. You know, the fixed set that they use for this is well balanced. Little bit of push, but it's the same for everybody. But yeah, look, Riley and Craig, super quick. A couple other guys were very fast as well in practice and quali, and I thought we were actually going to bunch up a lot more than that, but it ended up us 3 breaking away, which is nice. Yeah, they certainly gave us a good battle. We always know it's going to be a battle of the toe down the main straight. But yeah, basically I didn't know what I was going to do. Yeah, I was comfortable, but those guys were just equally as quick, so I had to try and think of something.
Your pole time was 1/10 of a second quicker than second place, so that's a fairly decent gap in relation to this series. We usually see times fairly close, and yeah, so it's a good gap to have there. Riley and Craig had a bit of an altercation earlier in the race, so I don't know if you knew about that, but that certainly sort of freed you up at the front there to sort of run your own race at your own pace, just maintaining that gap back to Riley. Is that sort of how you played the second half of that race?
Yeah, I did see them come together. To be honest, there was a hope, I suppose, of mine. That was before the pit stop. Look, I was trying to, I was hoping that those 2 guys would get a bit closer in the toe and that Craig would have a go. Basically, it's very, very difficult, obviously, to break the toe. So you either need someone to come together, or a big mistake with someone trying to pass, or a combination of that and making a pit stop at the right time. I saw that I had backed Riley into Craig a little. That's why I decided to pit. I wasn't planning that lap or anything particular. But Craig went and stuffed that up on me, and he followed me into the pits. So I was hoping he was going to give Riley a good battle there, and then throughout the pits, so I was hoping to establish the gap. That didn't happen, as you saw. We all came out within half a second of each other, so no win there. However, I did see that move coming from Craig and Riley in particular. And I did go to the inside. That was the first time I went defensive into the chicane, and mainly that was I didn't want basically Riley trying to come through, getting 2 through for 1. So that was sort of a bit defensive for my own part, and yeah, I didn't see what happened, but obviously Riley got into Craig when I did that, and yeah, got a gap and got it to the end.
Yeah, we watched the replay and it looked like with Craig pretty much on the outside there, he was almost alongside you, but obviously had nowhere to go because you were in the way, and Riley was on the inside. I think it probably would have been a racing incident. Both drivers probably wouldn't have seen each other as Riley's come through on the inside and Craig's then cut down from right up high, and they've made contact. Riley seemed to be able to press on, but unfortunately Craig must have copped some suspension damage and he had to pit for the damage. Ended up coming home in 14th, but congratulations on the win, and I'll just pass you over to Andrew to see if he's got any questions for you.
Hey Gary, congratulations again. It was a great drive. We saw earlier on in the race he seemed to pull a gap from Riley and Craig, and we thought you'd be out of the tow, but then Riley really put in some pace and caught you up. Did you make an error, or did you feel that he was still in the tow?
Might have been just on the limit of the tow, but to be honest, it was just really good laps there from Riley. I think if you go back and have a look at his lap times, they were super. Mine weren't quite the quickest I could have done, so I probably made a 10th error maybe on each lap. But that's enough. If you're only just out of the tow, a couple more tenths gets you in about 1.5 seconds, and then when you're running that pace, yeah, they're always going to catch you.
Yeah, it was great seeing that racing. It was really close dicing. Look, you've come into this race 7th in the championship. It's too hard for me. I'm not a really smart guy to do the championship points at the moment, but that's going to put you right up near the pointy end. Marcelo wasn't in the race tonight, and we know he's had a couple of bad rounds. I think you've missed a round yourself. That's really going to put you in contention for the title. I guess maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago you were thinking maybe a top 10 would be great, but you're actually a chance for the title this season.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it ends up. Yeah, I actually missed the first two rounds. Not sure if there's a drop round in this one or not, but if so, then that's great for me. Obviously, some of the races I've done haven't always been quicker, or the top sort of 3, but generally top 5-ish pace, and just had some nice sort of consistent results. So yeah, if I can keep that up, I think it'll look pretty good.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting finish to the season. Got a couple of good tracks coming up. I've got Phillip Island next week. How do you find Phillip Island? Is it a favourite track of yours? Most Australians really love it. It is quite technical, and it's quite a difficult track to be fast on consistently because it is quite technical. It depends what you drive across it as well. But how do you find it?
Yeah, I love it. That fast flowing type of circuit. Watkins is pretty similar with a couple of slower corners, but I mean, with the fixed set anyways, and these cars, it's it's going to be a tow fest, so it's going to be very, very close. There'll be some big packs in that one, I'd say.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to it. Look, we mentioned before, new livery. We know you're a friend of Will Power. He's obviously got a book out. Is there anything more you can tell us about that? Is it out now? Where can people get it?
Yeah, well, funny thing was, I was talking to him today, and I hit him up for a free copy, and he told me to stop being tight and go and get one from the shop, and he said he hasn't sold enough, so take 1,000 people with me. I don't have many friends, so next best thing, I'll plaster all over the car and just poking a bit of fun. But yeah, on the serious side, yeah, the book is out there. It came out last month in Australia. It doesn't come out till next year in the States, so lucky us. And you can also get there's got an ebook out there as well, which is a fair bit cheaper. So I actually haven't even read it myself. I'm going to go and do that tonight.
That's excellent. We'll probably plug it in the next couple of races as well for you. Mates, anybody you want to have a shout out to? Any sponsors you want to thank?
Again, guys, yourselves really. Slipstream, taking the time to do this. People do really appreciate it. I know I do. I like going back and having a look. And to be honest, like tonight's probably the first time I've had a legitimate reason to get a word out there, being Will's book. And it's pretty cool. I know a lot of people get to see that. So just a big thanks to you guys.
All right, thanks again, Gary. Congratulations for the win, and hopefully we'll see you on the top step of the podium another week.
I hope so, fellas. Thank you very much.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Gary.
All right, next we might bring up Troy Burgess and just ask him what might have happened to him at the end of that race where he was battling to try and get to second place. Welcome, Troy, to the Slipstream commentary box. late stages of that race, we saw you catching the back of Riley Preston. Couldn't quite get him, unfortunately. We saw you had a bit of an incident there. Do you just want to talk us through what happened there?
Yeah, I was. Thanks, Trent. It was a little bit disappointing in the end, but yeah, I was trying to pull in Riley, and I just was pulling in by tenths, and then I'd lose a tenth to him on a lap, and then I think he must have made a mistake because I got into his slipstream, and then I actually started to gain, and just coming out of the corner, I put one wheel on the dirt and couldn't hold it, unfortunately, because I was thinking that there might be one last passing opportunity. So anyway, that's racing.
Yeah, it's certainly unfortunate that you ended up losing that podium position too, but certainly gave us something to watch and talk about towards the end of that race. I'm useless at these interviews, so I'm going to pass you off to Andrew to ask some questions.
Hi Troy, mate. Look, good drive. I mean, you qualified fifth, you come fourth. You can't be too upset about that. Obviously, a little bit disappointed towards the end there, but it was really good for us to watch. Look, is this a favourite track of yours, or what's your favourite kind of track? Is it a more tight technical, or is it more fast flowing, or you really don't have you just like to get out there and race?
This track I've always been quite good on. Not really sure why. I was actually quite fast last week as well, but I just couldn't get a good qualifying time in. And these races are tough. If you qualify back in the field, the top 3 or 4 normally make a break, and then it's really difficult. And then you end up fighting in the mid pack, which is pretty vicious sometimes. So, look, I guess for me, it's I haven't been racing the Star Mazda for that long, so it's just trying to progress. Overall, I'm happy with fourth. It's my highest place finish in SMAC, so still got to be happy with that, even though I'm slightly disappointed that I lost the third spot.
Yeah, it's funny. I guess there's no actual podium to stand on, but you still feel a little bit disappointed if you miss that virtual third step. Just talking about last week at Interlagos or Brazil, you had to come together with Riley Preston on lap 4. Can you tell us anything about what happened then?
Yeah, I'm not really sure what happened. I think I had a bit of a ping issue, and when I was talking to Riley about it later, he basically said he wasn't sure where I was. So it's one of these things that happens. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it is.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, I did watch the replay, and it really looked strange. There were some strange things going on in that race with cars pitting and then just disappearing, and then a couple of incidents that you really wouldn't expect to happen. So you're right, it does happen, and it's pretty unfortunate. So, look, are you going to be with us for next week at Phillip Island? Are you going to make that race?
Yep, Phillip Island is another track that I sort of do. Oh, sorry, really looking forward to that. So I'll definitely be there.
And are you going to be in SMAC 5? I believe there is a SMAC 5. We haven't actually discussed it yet, but I'm getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, for sure. I like the competition. It's I'm fairly new to the Star Mazda, but it's good. I like the fixed setup because you don't have to spend hours trying to fine tune the car. It's a equal car, equal setup for everyone, so it's evens the field out somewhat.
Yeah, I think that's right, and I think that's what's really appealing to a lot of people and why they keep coming back to it. We've said it before in a couple of broadcasts, you don't have to keep making setups and making changes and putting all that time and effort into it, and when people take you out, obviously by accident, you've put in hours and hours, so it's really frustrating. So people to come in, jump in, do pretty well, or maybe have an accident and not do so well, it's not as much of an investment in time, and so people don't get as upset. And there's some really good, respectful drivers in the series. Actually, we haven't had any issues through nearly 4 seasons now, so everybody's been really respectful. Everybody gets along, so it's a great bunch of drivers.
Yeah, and the level of competition is very high. To win one of these races, I take my hat off to Gary. I mean, to win one of these races, it's more than just being fast. You have to qualify well. You have to have a good pit stop. You can't get caught up in battles throughout the race because otherwise you just go backwards. So it's a really tough thing to do, to win one of these races. So I'll keep striving and see if I can pick one up.
Mate, I'm sure we'll see you on the podium in the next couple of races, mate. Congratulations again. It was a good race. It was a good result, and I hope to see you next week. Is there anybody else you want to have a shout out to? Anybody you want to say thanks to?
Yeah, just the team, All Star Motorsport, and our sponsors, Rack Corp and Unmetered Services.
Thanks a lot, Troy, and yeah, shame about you missing the podium, but still a good result in 4th place, so well done, and we'll catch you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Alright, next we might bring up Scott Newton. Got himself a top 5 tonight, I believe, so we'll see what he had to say about track conditions and the setup this week. Okay, Scott, welcome to the Slipstream commentary box. Top 5 for you tonight, mate. You pretty happy with that result?
Hey Trent, yeah, definitely happy with that result, given that with the limited amount of practice that I've had and not really liking this version of Watkins Glen. I'm more fun with the classic boot, which is the configuration without the chicane on the back straight. But yeah, it was a really great race with all the guys in there. Yeah.
Do you think the chicane in the back straight that you spoke about, do you think it added or took away from passing opportunities during the race?
I think, to be honest, I think it took away from passing opportunities, especially going into the carousel, due to the fact that the entry to the chicane on the back straight is quite tight, and there's only really one line, and it sort of backs up the pack quite a lot if you go too wide through there. So yeah, to be honest, I think it does take away from the overtaking during the race, having that chicane.
That's certainly interesting to know, and it's something the organisers might look at if they choose this track for future seasons, that they might eliminate that back chicane in future races. Last week we did speak about this track up here in the commentary box amongst, I can't remember who was up here, but we spoke about how we didn't remember the race from last season because it wasn't broadcast, but it was reminded at the time that the race didn't actually happen due to some technical difficulties with iRacing and the servers at the time. So it's good to see a race finally get done here. And you know, how did you find the car and the setup in this particular track compared to, say, last week at Interlagos?
I think with this track, with the setup, with this weather, because it's vastly different. I think the track temperature was like 23 degrees, but it was a clear weather rather than like a mostly cloudy weather, just due to the fact that with the hotter temperature on the track, it makes it quite slippery. But there was less turn-in oversteer this week compared to last week in general. So it's sort of a double-edged sword with running the same setup over the course of a season at 12 different tracks. So you get some weeks where the setup might be dialed in quite well, but other weeks it might be not so great.
Yeah, that's quite true. It's sort of the peril of the fixed setup, I guess. And like I said, it is the same one used all seasons. Previous seasons we had sort of flick between low, medium, and the high downforce versions of the baseline sets supplied by iRacing. But driver feedback asked us to run a same setup pretty much all season. So that's what we're doing this season, and it could be something that again we look at for season 5, whether or not we tweak the setup for each individual track as the season goes on, moving forward. Andrew, did you have any questions for Scott at all?
Yeah, look, hi Scott, good race, mates. We almost talk to you just about every week, which is great because every time we talk to you, you've done better. I think a couple of races ago, you've had some results that probably weren't what you were expecting, but you keep plugging away, and every time we talk to you, you're top 20, you're top 15, your top 10. Now, you're almost in the top 5 there. So, how do you, why are you progressing each race? Are you finding you're putting more time into it, or the track's more suited, or you're just having a bit of luck?
Hey Eddie, yeah. To be honest, I think it was more luck this week, just due to the fact that some of the other big names aren't here, like Benjamin Smith, Marcelo Rivera, that weren't actually attending this race. So, it helps my championship a little bit with them not being there, but it also can detract from the racing in terms of having less people on the grid. But yeah, but also I do generally pretty well at Watkins as well, so I think it's mainly luck that I've been able to finish in the top 5 today, just due to the fact that a couple of people spun in front of me as well.
Yeah, I mean, you gridded up in 9th position, which is because this is so competitive, and there's only small amounts of hundredths between the top 10 drivers. So 9th on the grid is a fantastic effort as well. So I mean, obviously that's helped your race. You stayed out of trouble. I know you've had some trouble in previous races, which is basically just a bit of bad luck, really. But you're starting to do well towards the pointy end of the season. So coming into this race, position 20. Again, I don't know the math, but I think that's going to shoot you up probably close to the top 10.
Yeah, definitely. Hoping to progress a little bit more towards the end of the season. I think Phillip Island is next week, so generally that's been a decent track for me, especially the F1, which is typically what I race. And it's a pretty heavy drive intensive track, especially this Star Mazda, just due to the fact that there's not as much power as the F1. So yeah, it definitely should be a good race then.
Does it take you much transition when you're driving mostly the Formula One and then to jump into the Star Mazda? Because I know when I jump into cars, it does take me a fair while to transition and get the feel of the car and to actually put in some decent lap times, if I can call them that. It takes me a while. Does it take you a while? I know they're both open wheelers. They've both got a few characteristics the same, but totally different cars.
Yeah, it's just mainly due to the fact that I have a little bit more confidence in the F1 with the extra downforce, and just due to the fact that it's mainly the only car that I drive, so I can pick it up quite quickly, and I have some half-decent baseline setups that work pretty much straight away. So all I need to do is really a couple of tweaks, and then I've got it pretty much down. But in terms of jump between the Star Mazda and the F1, it depends on which way I go. If I go from the Star Mazda to the F1, it's pretty quick, but if it's the other way around, it sort of takes me a little bit longer.
Yeah, it takes me too long for every car, to be honest. So good on you. Look, mate, great result. Always good to talk to you. Always good to have you up in the box. Do you want to have a shout out to your sponsors and your team?
Yeah, cheers, Andy. I'd like to thank the Apex Racing Academy and Apex Racing UK for their support over the past year. Also to Leo Bodner Sim Steering, Precision Sim Engineering, and to GT Omega.
Thanks a lot, Scott, and hope you see you again next week.
Yeah, not a problem. Cheers, fellas. Take it easy.
See you, mate.
All right, we'll bring up race control now and wrap up the broadcast.
4 days.
Scott, Josh, Matt, welcome to the commentary box for Slipstream. You were race control this evening. How did the race go from a race control point of view?
It was alright. I was basically there by myself the whole time because Josh was having a good old nanny nap, so that was nice of him. So it was alright. There was a few little incidents. I think one, we issued a 10-place grid penalty I don't know what the driver name was, but it was too late to issue a drive-through, so we decided to issue a 10-place grid penalty for the next race they compete in. And other than that, the driving was actually pretty damn good tonight.
Andrew, you got any questions?
I don't know what to say about race control, mate. Look, thanks for turning up and doing race control when you can. We know you're busy away sometimes and you can't make it, so really appreciate you coming in. Have you been getting many, I guess, feedback from the drivers or complaints coming in or formal requests to look at incidents at all?
It's not. No, not really. I'm not here as often as I usually am this season. So, but I check the post race and appeals and stuff every round, basically when I'm here, and like that's sometimes you do get people requesting stuff. Like I believe Craig Edwards requested one tonight for us to have a look at with believe it was with Riley Preston, I think, going into the bus stop, and
Yes,
we had a good look at that.
Yes, we did see that one. From my point of view, it's going to be a hard one for you guys to rule on, being that Craig was quite high and come down, and Riley was sort of on the inside already with not really much space to move in, which was unfortunate for both drivers there.
Yeah, and like, because at that point it was only me in there, so I had to try and didn't really have a second view but my own. So I looked at it a lot of times to multiple different camera angles and decided that it was 50-50 both drivers. You know, they were, as you said, Craig was really high, and like he had to turn in, and Riley saw the door was open, so he naturally had a dive there as well. So it was a really tough call, and it was borderline racing incident and a drive-through. So it was. I might even have a look at it again and get a second opinion on it, and then see where we go from there post-race. But at this point, I would say he's still racing. I don't think it'll change.
Yeah, it's a tough one to call at the time, especially if you've got to watch it a couple of times and you're still not sure. And if you're the only one in race control, I can imagine that's quite a burden to have. And obviously, one of the drivers is not going to be happy with the outcome. So yeah, it's a tough thing to be in. I think probably we should keep race control anonymous so they don't get too much hate mail later on.
Yeah, I forget what I was going to say. I'm doing laps at the moment in pre-qual, so I'm trying to talk and drive. It's not going the best, but I'm doing all right, I think.
You're doing the V8s. Well, you know, if you get in and we don't, well, we're going to be pretty disappointed.
Hate mail be issued.
So
All right,
we'll just keep talking to you for the next 2 hours or so.
that's cool. I don't mind.
We do.
Right, I think that pretty much sums up most of it for tonight. So, any finishing thoughts you wanted to go through, Andrew?
I'm going to butt in here and say thank you for both of you for coming in every week now and keeping the broadcast going for SMAC. It's always good to have a series broadcast, and I know you've both putting a lot of hours in the background to getting this going, and I know there's a few people helping you in the community, which is always good to see. So thank you guys for doing all you do.
I'd just like to thank Scott Connors for all his work in the series too. It's been great.
Righto. Scott. He has to fairness. He has when he can. He jumps in and he does the race control. Obviously, Josh, yourself, with Scott Stevens also helps out on a weekly
When they're not sleeping.
Yeah, helps out on a weekly basis, and of course Matt Wilkins as well. The series wouldn't be where it is without the hard work of race control in the background as well, which they're pretty much the unsung heroes when it comes to organising events.
Yeah, that's right. And yes, a lot of work goes into everything, not just the broadcasting. It goes, you know, race control. It goes organisation, posting of stuff on the forum, and just people from other organisations helping us. So a big shout out to them, and obviously the Bernie from RRTV's helped with the broadcasting. The guys from V8s Online. Yeah, there's a lot of people to thank. Maybe we should have a little thing at the end that just runs up the screen thanking everyone. That might be easier.
Yeah, a bit like a credits sequence, I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we are obviously very new at this broadcast venture, and we're constantly trying to add new features new content with videos and all that sort of stuff, so we can try and sort of entertain the viewers and try and also give them a bit of background on where we're at and in what they're watching. The only thing we need to do is sort of give a little bit more lead time before the race, which is more a logistical thing on my end, trying to time everything. My time management skills really aren't that great, so that's something that we're going to improve on moving forward. So as for tonight's race, driver of the night, Andrew, do you have a pick at all?
Yeah, look, it's easy to pick the winner, isn't it, Gary Hamilton? But look, he drove a great race and he kept out of trouble. Didn't look like he was going to win it for a small amount of time there, but he was very comfortable. So I've got to give it to Gary.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. He's pretty much yeah, led from start to finish, but he had a lot of pressure from Riley Preston and Craig Edwards there, especially in the opening first half of the race. It was just an unfortunate accident that really took both of them guys out and sort of let Gary just sort of cruise home almost to a comfortable win. So, but he had to be there to take advantage of it. So yeah, my drive also goes to Gary Hamilton.
If I had to pick a second driver, I'd have to split it into quarters for David Pegler, Paul Tarjavara, Nino Natali, and Andrew Kiss. I mean, those guys had a great battle. Looks like they all finished, and they all finished pretty closely together. So keeping it clean, having some great racing, hard racing. Those guys are going to be fun to watch in the next couple of rounds.
Yeah, that's why it's important to certainly look down the field at the battles going on, because although there's good battles at the front for first, second, and third, you quite often find these battles with 4 or 5 cars in the midfield, which are always quite entertaining to watch. So we'll wrap up tonight's broadcast so we can get this uploaded to YouTube. Unfortunately, we've got streaming issues again, which my ISP is going to cop an abusive phone call tomorrow. So, on behalf of Andrew Gaines, Matt Wilkins, Scott Connors, and Josh Burden, I am Trent Thomas. You've been watching Slipstream. Good night.